Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the webinar series, A Print Design Story, the COVID Chapter. We are so excited to have here with us today our guest speakers. We have Betsy Franjola from Preface. We have Craig Tudhope from NuPrimary Textile Design Studio from New York City. We have Peri O'Connor, President of Periscope Art. And we have Dani Miller, Senior CAD Manager from Talbots. And they have some very exciting information to share with you guys today. This webinar is being brought to you guys in collaboration with Preface. We have Betsy Franjola, founder, here with us today. Betsy, could you share a little bit more information on Preface and the services that you provide?
Definitely. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. Preface is the fabric trends show that we started 2 years ago in the summer of 2018. And as the name suggests, it is about the beginning. So we supply a range of inspiration to begin one's own design story or seasonal collection. Our goal in creating the show was to join together a group of like-minded suppliers who wanted to showcase their collections in a new way. For us, it was about building relationships and creating a space to inspire each other, not only with innovative new fabrics, but also through education on a wide variety of topics within the fashion industry. Back then, big changes were happening with advancements in the sustainability movement, transformation of logistic strategies, and shifts in customer mindfulness of their own purchasing power. But now change is at a pace and on a scale like we've never experienced before. So Preface continues to exist as a comprehensive forum, a place to talk, learn, and explore how to navigate these changes. This season, we were originally scheduled to host our show in New York in July, but with the arrival of COVID, we had to adapt and change our approach. So while others were launching virtual editions to reach customers, our team wanted to continue down the path of building relationships and providing real inspiration. So Preface was transformed to a show in a box. We designed 2 boxes, a premium and a complimentary box. Both versions include participating mill swatch collections, our own fabric and color trend guide, and the invitation to this webinar series. So thank you for participating, and we're really pleased to have you with us today. I first met Victoria about a year ago when Mimaki set up their Los Angeles Innovation Center for digital printing. And she really helped us out of a jam when our color palettes for last January's show didn't arrive in time. So I'm thrilled to have her as our host and moderator for today's webinar, and I'll let her take over from here. But I hope you'll agree that the panel today is a great collaboration of people selected for their talent and experience from various segments of the textile design community to tell the story and life cycle of a print. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Betsy. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go over a quick overview of what the webinar is going to entail. We'll go do a quick digital textile printing advantage. It's being offered as we transition through COVID-19. Then we'll get into the overview of inspiration and the design process, best practices for selling print designs to target buyers, key factors in selecting prints for home and apparel, developing and finalizing silhouettes, print designs for apparel, preparing these print-ready files to go into production. And then we'll come to the closing of kind of overviewing the digital printing workflow for directive fabric and dye sublimation. And then we have some additional resources at the end. If you have any questions during the presentation, please just post them in the chat window and we'll address them at the end. So the digital textile printing advantage. As we've been transitioning through COVID-19, we've seen a lot of changes in the way the textile supply chain is having to adapt business. So from the traditional model of produce, sell, deliver, we see a shift to a new model, which is sell, produce, deliver. So digital printing allows you to print in any quantity. So you don't have to, it's a very risk-averse business model. So you have more flexibility to react to market demands. So this also enables brands, fashion, and home retailers to expand their design possibilities. They're not limited to the size of a screen. They can use as many colors as they want and variations. Also, by being able to shift to a sell, produce, deliver, you're able to deliver, you don't have to have stocked inventory. So a lot of times what happens with the inventory is whatever doesn't sell, then you have seasonal markdowns. So adopting a business model like this really allows you to increase your profit. But the demand chain, it's a shift in the way that we're fundamentally doing business. So I think like the successful companies that are able to realize that being more agile in the market will, will turn out and increase your profit and really allow you to stay current and continue and transition business like through this period of time as well as in the future. So now we're going to move on to the first part of the phase of a print design, and that's going to be the perspective from the inspiration and design process from Craig Tudhope from NuPrimary Textile Design Studio. Welcome, Craig.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Hi.
Could you, thank you. We're so grateful to have you here with us today.
Oh, not a problem. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Could you share a little bit more information how you generate your designs and your process?
Yeah, definitely. So, so we're a small printed textile design studio. We're based in Brooklyn, and we've been around since 2012. We create everything by hand. Everything in our collection it's a very well kind of considered collection, which comprises of prints from covering kind of every different theme, watercolors, something like graphic, illustrative, conversational, landscapes. We really cover a broad spectrum of customers, from home furnishing through to apparel customers as well. And for us, it's more about, and instead of looking at like a single design, it's more about like a theme for a design or a set of designs. So in our collection, we'll have maybe 6 to 8 designs, which are all based around a similar theme. And for us, that really starts with an emotional attachment, and that's really kind of starts the whole process off. Like if we don't feel like an emotional connection to something, then it just becomes stuff. So that's followed by kind of social reconfirmations and kind of a nod towards the social zeitgeist. Like if you see things that are going on around, it's taking stock of all those things. And then assurances through just music and social media and, you know, TV and online that pull together an idea and start to build on those things that you've seen to build out your group. So from there, we really start collecting visual images on a board as inspiration. And we'll pull all those together, which could be found images. It's maybe like vintage samples that we have, images that we take, or pictures that we take on the street, store windows, magazines, old magazines as well, which we all keep a copy of, and pulling all those together and making something that's new. So sometimes we'll have like many different themes going on together at the same time. And then it gets quite exciting when we start pulling together similar themes to make something new. So it's really kind of like a building and editing process that we go through and kind of trying to come up with what the next step would be. Because obviously we're looking at, you know, spring, summer and fall 2020, 21. So it's really just looking at what's going on in the world right now and trying to evolve that into what that's going to be for next year, and also what's going to be appropriate for our customers as well, because that's also plays a big part. Since now we've been in business for 8 years, we have a really good, solid customer base. And we, now that we have some experience of what they like and what they come to expect from us, we know we always have that in the back of our mind. We don't just blindly design print designs with no end use in sight. We always design with maybe like Dani and at Talbots in mind, or Macy's, or whoever that may be. But we'll pull together all those groups, and then we'll start working on actually concepting those prints. So pulling together mood boards, color stories, which is like a big part of the process as well, and then sending that out to a designer who's on our team that we know is going to execute that project the way that we expect it to be delivered. So it's kind of like a lot of background process just to get to that print. So when people just see the print design and think, oh yeah, that's pretty, there's so much work that goes in behind the scenes to actually get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So you would say that you kind of adjust your process per customer. You kind of are comfortable with your customer base, and you kind of just kind of work directly with them when you're developing a collection of work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we first started off, everything was like a guess. So we were taking risks and, just doing what we felt completely passionate about, and that always stuck. So we don't really follow trend services like verbatim. Obviously we see things that are going on and they are as well, but we design what we feel passionately about, and I think that shows through in the quality of our work at the end of the day. So we're very cognizant of who our customers are, what they can achieve, be that digital or screen print. And we also provide the service as well. If someone, especially during this time of COVID, where people's departments have been broken up and they may not now have a CAD designer, or that CAD designer may not have access to Kaleido or Photoshop or whatever it may be, then we also provide that service as well. So you're not just buying the print design from us, we can put that in a repeat size and give you multiple colorways and give you files that you can send directly to your mill.
So what would you say, if you had to point out a couple key skills of when you're developing a print collection, what would that be?
I think initially it's like, of course, it's the ability to paint, because everything that we do, you can see behind me, the illustrations that are on the wall are all hand painted. So that is a big thing for us, that we didn't want to just, we use Photoshop, but really just to enhance and to do what would take days for you to do by hand. So it's the ability to paint, and then it's really just kind of, pulling together like all your different motifs together, and coming up with a technique, because it may not just be like a watercolor painting. You may do something that's very techniquey, and that can sell your design, not just, the motif. And then it's really having good color skills as well, good editing skills. It's almost like you have to be like multifaceted when you're a print designer, because it's not just about creating prints. You have to be good at putting different images together or different motifs together, and then coloring that up in a certain way. And then, when we're doing a collection of 6 prints, we almost see that as a mini collection. So it's having the ability to just see that as, what are the hero prints in the group, which are the prints, that pull together all the inspiration for your group, and then what are the all overs. You can see from the images that are on the screen right now, the blue image in the middle, which, it's one print which is made up of, there's a Sarasa print in there, there's like a tile print, there's floral kind of Jacobean motifs going on. So we design with people in mind that they can extract elements from the prints or use them as is. It really doesn't matter. So you do have to be talented in that aspect. So good at painting, good at using Photoshop, good at color.
Mm-hmm. And the handwork is so important. I think looking at NuPrimary's beautiful artwork, it looks like your work really starts with the hand and the painting and that artistic vision that you can see in these designs here.
Yeah, and I think that's what customers have come to expect from us now, that they will get a little bit more and we want to do that as well. Like, we want obviously customers to come back, so we'll try and give like more mileage in a print. And if I feel like I always spend a lot of time personally on color, so if I can't decide on a colorway, I'll sometimes put multiple colorways within the same print file, so when customers open that up, there'll be those unexpected files in there that are colorways that I couldn't decide upon, so I just put them in there anyway.
What would you say are some of the successful strategies that you use to get new customers or to display your print designs to your target customers?
I would definitely say since the beginning of March, when everyone kind of went into lockdown, we have been working on our website for a considerable amount of time and trying to get literally everything that's in our physical library in our online library. So literally it was March 13th, I think we finished it. So that has become like a really valuable tool for customers to use, not only in the city, because obviously we're not doing face-to-face appointments, but it's a great tool for people to use, you know, whenever they want to go online. You can search by color, by theme, and really, you know, edit down the prints that you want to look at specifically, or you can just browse the whole collection online. So that's been a really good tool. Obviously, Instagram and social media have been really valuable tools for us as well, and have continued to be since we, you know, started the business. So the products that we have up online too are something that we've been focusing on during this kind of downtime for us, because obviously we're not selling at the same capacity we were before COVID. So we've kind of refocused our attention into creating our own line of product, which you can also buy through the website. And it's, you know, we're working with print on demand companies that are, you know, working with, if you want to buy something, then you can go online, they'll print just one of those things. We don't have to have stock in it. You know, we've done all the work on the front end, actually creating the product. So then once it goes online, then it's just a matter of like what you want to shop for. So we've been trying to like trial and error some vendors who work on, you know, they do different things, hard goods, soft goods, accessories, and then we've been working on face masks as well. The image on the right is just a selection of some of the face masks that we've been making, and they've been doing really well the past few weeks. That we've actually just got them all in production now, so and have everything here. So that was like another good project as well. So it's definitely been keeping us busy, you know, during this kind of downtime.
Absolutely. We've seen from the the digital printing textile manufacturer side, we've seen a huge growth with face masks and people adapting technology to print this product. Obviously, COVID-19 has taken away business in certain areas, but this is definitely, we've been seeing as a growth market as well. Is there any other opportunities that you see for the market as we transition in and hopefully out of COVID-19?
Well, I definitely think this way that we've kind of been working with on-demand and print-on-demand companies has been something new to us, which is why we've been trial and error, you know, what people can do good, what people do best, whether it be towels or flip-flops or, you know, wrist watch bands, or mugs like the image in the center, which is amazing. So, I mean, that's something that's been new to us, and I do think it is the kind of way forward, and I think a lot of large companies might be tapping into that kind of working process as well, where there's not tons of back stock, or, you know, tens of thousands of meters being printed of one thing. You can print 1 meter. You can print half a meter of something, and then ship that directly to your customer without having to spend any money on warehouse costs in storing that stuff, the printing costs, like everything that comes with, you know, designing and creating in bulk. I think that's definitely the way forward.
Yeah, profit on each sale, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing all that great information. I'm going to move on to the next phase in a print design, but feel free, Craig, just to chime back in at any moment.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to look at a print design from a sales rep perspective. So I'm going to invite Peri O'Connor. Welcome, Peri.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah,
I'm on it. So we rep 15 art studios for textile design. We rep embellishments, sweater designs, and prints. And I've actually been selling artwork for 30 years, and Periscope art has been going almost 20. So, and we rep NuPrimary. And obviously in this day and age, things are quite different. And we're trying to adapt with everybody else.
Absolutely. You guys are the largest textile design agency on the West Coast. It's very exciting. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Could you share a little bit of information of how you choose which print designers you work with?
So basically, I do a lot of what Craig does as well. I do think about my customers. Sometimes it's just I see a studio, for instance, when I asked to rep them, where it's just so beautiful. It's something I'm not covered in. So I think it would be something that my customers would like. On the West Coast, which is most of my customer base, we're a little more casual than, you know, the East Coast. So I tend to rep studios that are colorful, have a little bit of whimsy to them. And we do have a big swim business as well. So I do think about a lot of the customers that we work with.
Thank you. How would you say the best strategy or practice process to show these prints to your target brands or companies?
Well, obviously there's pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, I would see 6 or 7 customers a day. Put on about 400 miles in my car every week, driving around with my big suitcases. And now it's about half and half. I do Zoom calls, I do Chime, I do FaceTime. That video in the center there is me showing. Several customers have it where you can't actually go into the office. So a couple customers have set up tents, so I actually show designs outside. I also put together emails because we do rep so many studios. A customer will say, hey, I need a zebra, and within an hour I can look on all my studio's websites and pull together a big zebra presentation.
Very good, very good. Would you say, I know you just touched on this, but do you see other opportunities for the textile supply chain as we transition through and hopefully out of COVID-19?
Right. I mean, I do think that people are really looking at doing things more locally. One is a lot of the studios in Europe can't travel here. So my job security has bumped up because of that. They really need someone to show the artwork. Also, I feel like people are trying to do things more locally, because if you can't get your goods from China, if you can't get something from India, you have to be able to maybe produce it here. And like you were saying, if people do print more digitally, they can do things on that, you know, how did you say the shop, create, print,
sell, produce, deliver.
Produce, deliver, like that. Because that, I mean, honestly, I have studios who they're not even printing the swatches until they're sold. So it's
we're doing that too.
Yeah. So there, you know, that some of that is happening. Of course, I do, as you can see in that that video, I do have a lot of artwork on hand. But you know, I'm hoping for everyone to print digitally, because the rest of the world does it, and it allows so many more colors, and there's no limitations. And I rep some studios that do amazing prints that have way more than 12 colors. So it'd be nice. Swimwear seems to do that now anyway, but it'd be nice if some of the other markets could access that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think reshoring to the US offers a lot of opportunity for digital printing to expand into the textile supply chain as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just, you know, we do rep studios based on customer base, and the trends that come from Europe, it's a whole different world now, because so much was based on runway shows and what was selling today or this season to help you decide what you're doing next season. And because people didn't have the sales for spring 2020, they're really having to go with their gut. And I think it's kind of a nice place to go, actually, because I think it's allowing some of the art studios just that pure creativity where they can go with their gut, what's beautiful, what's pretty to wear, what the customers want. And I think we'll see even maybe more of a variety, people going with just what's beautiful instead of just relying on the runways or what's sold this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you so much for all of that great insight. I'm going to move on to the next part and phase of a textile print from the brand perspective, but Peri, feel free to chime in if you'd like to add anything at any point. So I'm going to welcome Dani Miller, Senior CAD Manager from Talbots. Welcome, Dani.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here with us and grateful. Could you share a little bit more on the process that brands go through when selecting which prints to utilize or purchase, and how you kind of vision them into a collection?
Sure. Well, the first step typically in each of our seasons is we kind of develop a concept. We build a wall, as you can see on the screen that you're seeing right now. We build a wall of retail garments, and associated with that are images, tears that we've actually pulled either from, you know, WGSN, the different trend sites that are available, as well as Runway. Obviously, with COVID, we are in a little unique situation, so we don't have the ability of relying so heavily on these runway shows that we once had. And so to go back to Peri and as well as Craig's point, we do really lean a lot on these print studios and you know, tapping into what not only they're seeing, but what their creative mind has kind of outletted out to. So the first step is, you know, building out the concept and also a color palette. Our customer is very, very novelty heavy. She loves print, she loves pattern, and she loves colors. So it makes it really, really fun, not only to design in-house that print, but also to seek, you know, print studios to see what they have come up with.
So from do brands or Talbots, or from your experience prior, do you think that you purchase full like collections or single prints, or do you go and purchase, you know, coordinates with like 2 main prints? Could you just share a little bit more on that part?
So a lot of times when we're going through the process of in the concept room, you know, we nod towards retail garments that we really like that print, or we really like how they use the color. And then from there, we'll shoot out, you know, we have a handful of studios that are our go-to, so to speak. To Craig's point, we use NuPrimary quite a lot. NuPrimary understands our customer. And so it makes it for an easy shopping experience of, I'll reach out to Craig, whether I shoot him some images from our concept room, or I just can kind of talk him through of what we're kind of looking for. He'll build a collection for us before he comes to visit, and he'll show us the collections of what he thinks is most relevant to our customer. And then also, you know, there's those moments where we'll reach out to studios if they don't have that. You know, they'll create something for us that really suits with our customer. Typically, when we go this route, we'll first try to find our what I call roadmap prints, the ones that really tell the story, and then we have those filler prints. So a lot of times, you know, as Craig was mentioning with his design process, he'll create kind of a vignette, a collection of prints where one is like the roadmap, and then there's elements or motifs that are extracted from that, where you can create your filler prints, but when you look at it on the floor, if you imagine a store, it all makes sense and it all kind of sits together. So we kind of do both. You know, I gave you a yes or no. Yes, we definitely buy the collection, but then we're also throwing in those print no prints, those easy 5 colors, those dots, those classic prints that can kind of fill any season just beautifully.
Awesome. How do you determine which of that collection of prints to use for which apparel silhouette?
So we actually, a lot of times, we'll piggyback off with the same print, but maybe we change the scale. So, you know, in the next slide, I think over was one of the prints that we purchased, or it might be 2 over, one of the prints that we purchased from NuPrimary, actually.
On this slide?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's the catalog, but we'll get to that. We actually designed it for a dress or a skirt, but then we also piggybacked off of it and did a woven top. So we played with scale, maybe the spacing changed slightly, maybe the color is reduced slightly depending on what our limitations are with that specific fabric. But we definitely like to use that print in a couple vehicles.
Okay, once you've determined the print for the target silhouette, how do you then prepare it to go into production?
So first, after we purchase the print, I'll just use NuPrimary as an example. NuPrimary will send over the digital file that we purchased, and we take the file and, you know, pre-COVID, we do mostly rotary printing. So we have to cut screens, which means every single color position is a separate screen, so to speak, that the factories have to cut and create. So it's very, very important that the artwork is super clean. It can't have pixels around it. It's crisp, it's clean. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll clean the artwork. We may possibly, in this situation, extract the motifs from the artwork, so that way we're able to create those, you know, mini filler prints that we may need. For this print, we did as NuPrimary had made it, but then we actually extracted some of these cute little leaves and created a print no print tight little non-print for a woven top vehicle. So extracting the motifs I always like to do, just so we have that available for when we need a last minute print. We already have the motifs extracted, they're clean, they're ready to go. After that, we'll put it into a repeat, so that way it's seamless. When it's printing on a rotary, they can just print tons and tons of yards. You're not going to see that cut tile line. And then we go in, then we'll roll out colorways. So the next slide shows, we also ran this in a black ground and then the ivory ground. I think what the merchants ended up purchasing that's in stores right now that's selling really, really great, Craig, is the ivory ground. So then we work with the factories and going back and forth with the strike offs, making sure that it all looks good in the scale, the colors that were chosen, whether we're using Pantone or Talbot standards, that they're executed correctly, which can go back and forth quite a bit.
How long would you say that it takes to go through that sampling strike off phase, from when you get the file to when you confirm the final print to go into production?
So actually,
it's rotary printing.
Yes,
rotary printing.
Yes. So when creating this artwork, you know, something like this, because it's a flat artwork. It's not like those watercolor pretties. The flat artwork, 3 colors, as far as creating the artwork and getting it factory ready, wouldn't take too much time. I would say something like this might take a half a day. But the long lead time is typically working with the factories. You know, after it's chosen for whatever silhouette it's going on, the fabric has been chosen, we have to work within those repeat limitations that the factories have. So we may go back and forth a few times, changing the repeat, the rotary height to make sure that it fits in. So we might have to adjust the layout accordingly, or if it's okay with design, we might just quickly reduce the artwork so it fits into that rotary. So some of that back and forth definitely eats up a little bit of time, but after it's sent out to the factories and they're working, it could be a couple weeks before we'll get a strike off. And, you know, after we get that strike off, we like to have sample yardage, so that way we can create the samples in the garment that was designed into, so we can present it to merchants and see, you know, from them to shop from and create this beautiful line from.
So do you see any shift to utilize digital printing technology to speed up this process of sampling yardage?
Definitely. I see a lot of opportunity in that. I think, you know, specifically for those watercolor prints, which, you know, I think that people are going to start shopping when we get to that point that people are comfortable to start spending money again. They're going to be thoughtful of what they're purchasing. They're going to want those beautifuls, right? They want it to feel special. They're going out and spending their hardworking money, you know, and they're going to be looking for that special prettiness. And a lot of that is those beautiful watercolors that Craig and Ray and all the NuPrimary team creates. And those are very, very hard to reduce. You know, our screen limitations are anywhere between 12 and 15 screens. So you can imagine a multi-watercolor trying to reduce that down. Then all of a sudden, you know, there was this beautiful print and we just, you know, flattened it. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for that because digital print allows you to have, you know, much more colors, like indefinite amount of colors that you don't have to sit there and flatten it. Yeah, and then also the turnaround time. The turnaround time's a lot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to add to that one point because you were talking about the watercolors and the ability to be able to print, digitally print at up to 1400 PPI resolution allows you to capture those gradations that we see with the watercolors and the no limitation on color. But yeah, so regarding the time, digital printing, generally you can get a sample around in 1 day. You can send it and get it turned around in 1 day. So from the brand perspective, you would say that this would really increase your speed to market per each season?
Yes, definitely. And, you know, as I think Peri and Craig both mentioned, you know, the workforce is changing because of COVID, unfortunately. And so, you know, right now there's a lot of companies, you know, out, not even speaking directly towards Talbots, but, you know, colleagues and people that I've worked with in the past, just talking to them, like, how's business doing? Listening how the workforce has been forced to come down and, you know, people are working on skeleton crew. You have the same amount of product that you have to develop, but you have less people. And right now, because we were closed for so long, we're pushed up against a very, very small deadline. So having the capability of having this 8-week lead time for strike off sample yardage, we just don't have that right now. And I don't think any of the industry, I don't know if we are going to have that for a while until everyone's confident about that we've turned the corner with all this.
Absolutely. Thank you for all of that great insight.
Yeah,
I'm going to dive. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, is there something else you would like to add? Yeah, there she is. The final piece.
Yes.
So is there anything else you'd like to add for the catalog collection of process and from the brand perspective?
No, I mean, as you can see, we used it in 2 vehicles and they're doing very, very well. This is actually in store now. So anyone listening, if they want to shop on talbots.com, there you go.
All right, well, great. I'm going to dive a little bit into the digital printing production workflow as the next step, but if you have anything to add, please feel free to chime in.
Great.
So we're just going to go over, we've talked a lot about summarizing the key advantages of digital printing for the market. Now I'm just going to take a look at the different processes. There's different ink printing systems that print different types of textiles. So Mimaki produces every type of ink to print all textiles, as well as pre and post finishing equipment. So here we take a look at the dye sublimation transfer process. This is mainly for polyesters and synthetic fibers, and lots of polylycra, sportswear, leisure wear, and swim as well. Uniforms and activewear as well. So you first print on the transfer paper, and then you transfer to the fabric through the application of heat. So the inks go from solid form on the paper to gas form through heat back into solid inside the textile. So you have excellent wash fastness with this process. From here, you then move into a finishing cut and sew process. This is a direct to fabric dye sublimation ink process. Also, you print with polyesters and synthetic fibers. This process to print direct to fabric requires the textile to be pre-treated and coated first. The pre-treatment operates as an ink acceptance layer. So for low energy, there's two different types, and for low energy dye sublimation inks, you pre-treat the fabric. You can also purchase this fabric pre-treated. Then you print directly onto the polyester, you heat set the fabric with a calendar heat press, and then you would move into a finishing cut and sew process. For high energy dye sublimation inks, Mimaki has a specialty ink, DD400. This ink set, the high energy, gives you a little bit more increased UV resistance and other increased fastness properties. So you pre-treat the fabric, you print directly to it, and then it's really recommended to steam the fabric for the best color density and development and fastness, but you can also calendar heat set it with good results. Then you would move into a finishing cut and sew process. The reason you would utilize a direct-to-fabric dye sublimation process versus a transfer process is because when you print directly to fabric, you can lay more ink down on the fabric, so you get better ink penetration through the fiber. A good example of this would be like for high-end swimwear. A lot of brands creating products, when they stretch that swimsuit, they don't want to see any white. So by being able to print directly on the fabric and get better ink penetration with direct-to-fabric printing is more ideal. So then for the direct-to-fabric pigment process, pigment inks are mainly used in the home decor market, and you see a lot of it in the t-shirt printing market. The pigment inks have excellent UV fastness, resistance to ultraviolet light. So you start off with a pre-treated fabric. The pre-treatment's optional, but if you pre-treat the fabric, you increase its durability and ink density and color development, but it's not necessary on natural fibers such as cotton, rayon, bamboo, hemp, linen, etc. But for other fiber types, it's recommended to coat the fabric. Coat the fabric, you print directly to the fabric, you heat set with a heat press, and then you would move into a finishing cut and sew process. A good example of this would be, I think we have example. So this would be something printed with pigment inks. I don't know if you guys can see. And if you see here, it sits on the surface. It doesn't penetrate through the fabric entirely. Still beautiful, beautiful fine lines, details, gradations. I think this side has a really nice gradation. So that's an example. For reactive dye process, globally with traditional printing for the apparel industry, this is the most used printing system. You start off with a pre-treated fabric, then you print directly onto the fabric. Then you would move into a steaming process to set the inks, and then a wash process. Reactive inks, when you go through the steaming process, a chemical reaction occurs and the coating on the fabric reacts with the ink and covalently bonds to the fabric. So this is going to be that's the strongest bond you have between an ink and a fiber. So you have excellent wash fastness. Reactive inks also have the widest color gamut. And because you're printing direct to fabric, they have really good, and steaming, they have really good penetration through the textile, just to show you the difference of the pigment to reactive. This is a silk sample. And if you see here, you have better penetration through the fiber. Okay. So really simple process. As you go through this, you start off with selecting the product. If you're producing an end product, some people are just selling textile fabric as is. So you would start here, then you'd move into your design CAD software. This could be Photoshop, Illustrator, Corel Draw. These are the standard file formats would be EPS, TIFF, PDF, JPEG. These are the most commonly used, but there's others as well. From the design CAD software, you just open that file in the RIP printing software. Mimaki provides Rasterlink 6 with all purchase of a machine, and we also have optional TX Link software, which gives you some extra benefits for like textile design, color cataloging, and some other features. The RIP is what communicates to the printer. So then from here, you set up in the RIP, you set up the quantity to be printed and your color management, some of your workflow, and then you hit print. So very quick, easy process. This type of process it really increases your speed to market because the sampling phase, like I mentioned earlier, can be reduced down to a day, and a ship on demand product, as like Craig was talking about, can be delivered within 2 to 3 days. Mimaki, I'll just touch on our technologies briefly. Mimaki has a wide range of technologies to meet every type of printing need. So we have our TX300P Mark II. This is our world's first dye sublimation transfer paper and direct-to-fabric pigment printer. So this printer can run paper with dye sublimation to print onto polyesters, and it can run fabric to print with pigment inks. So you're able to print on all the natural fibers as well as all of the other textiles possible. So with one printer, you can print every type of textile for every type of market, as well as wallpaper, because you can run paper and pigments. Then we have this belt model TX300P, which allows you to do stretchy fabrics and very thin, delicate fabrics. And then we have a high production model for your industrial production, the Tiger 1800B Mark II, for more of like very high speeds, like 4,000 square feet per hour. For the dye sublimation transfer process in the United States, dye sublimation transfer is an early adopter due to soft signage, and has been, because of the ease of process, has always been a very popular early adapter. So we have the small to medium workhorse printer, the TS300P, medium to large production model, the TS55, and then we have an industrial production printer, the Tiger 1800B sublimation model. With special features with the small to medium production models, you have fluorescent inks, which are real like specialty when you're looking to create more of a specialty product. You also have great features with the medium production model. So if you want to get into business and you want to be able to customize your workflow to switch between customize on demand and then do like larger production, this has optional units that are interchangeable, where you can go back from the standard unit to the, we have a jumbo roll unit and a 10-liter bulk ink system. So, the ink basically pays for itself. This allows you great versatility. Mimaki also is the only technology provider and manufacturer that has the complete solution for reactive, acid, and direct-to-fabric disperse printing. We have the coating machine, the TR300H50C. Then we have the direct-to-fabric printers with the wide range of ink sets that I went over earlier. And then we have a continuous steaming unit, which makes the world of so much easier when you're doing post-process. Because you just literally print the fabric, hook the roll up, staple it to the lead roll, and it goes through. Much simpler than traditional processes and much more color consistent. And then at the end, you see here the washing and coating machine. This is 2 technologies in one. So thank you. We have some additional resources here. To visit any other webinars, Mimaki USA has a YouTube page where you can see other textile webinars, and also a resource page which can show you how, if you're interested in learning more about creating applications, there's how-tos and lots of things to look at that are cool. But yeah, so these are our emails. We can provide this presentation to you. Just feel free to reach out. For upcoming webinars and events, Mimaki has a YouTube live event in the Americas coming up in August 27th. So feel free to check that out. Preface webinar coming up Thursday, August 13th at 11 a.m. The conversation will be on sustainability. And I think now we'll move into Q&A. Betsy, do you want to go through the Q&A with us to address the questions?
Definitely. We haven't had any questions come in, so if everyone wants to send questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Victoria, so many of obviously I have a lot of customers who have Mimaki machines at their big companies, but there are also a lot of designers, partly because of social media, that are literally designing out of their dining rooms right now and creating product, and maybe want to use digital printing but can't either afford the printer itself or have the location for it. do you have resources to put them in touch with people who can do that for them?
Yeah, we have print service providers. Certain companies that invest in digital technologies mainly do print services for other people. Other companies, you know, they're creating a certain product and they have that in-house. So we can, of course, provide you in the United States, depending upon your location, services, and put you in touch with them.
Okay. And I do have one more question for you. Obviously, a lot of my customers say they don't do digital printing because it's too expensive, yet in the whole rest of the world, everyone seems to be doing digital printing. Is there a cost differential, or what can people expect? And also, I know sometimes they talk about fabrics being an issue. Do the machines, and is the process ready for all fabrications now?
Well, I mean, Mimaki provides different technologies that are best suited for every type of fabric. It could be, our print heads go up 7 millimeters for like thicker or fibrous materials. It's really figuring out what the customer wants to do, and we can recommend the best solution. But there's always a solution for the customer. Regarding,
I mean, working with the mills, that's always a question that we get. So going straight to the actual fabric producers, they will also have a range of print abilities and options. So that's something that we work through a lot directly with customers when we are placing the order for fabric, and a lot of times have print fabric. So they will have their resources for digital printing and a lot of the traditional printing as well.
Yeah, and absolutely PFP fabric. So there is, when you're printing direct to fabric, you do want a PFP fabric or PFD where it's prepared for dyeing. So during the processing of the textile, any oils or impurities has been removed. That's a necessity for the process. The other thing I just want to touch back on what Peri mentioned is, in the United States, the prices for like the fiber reactive printing or direct to fabric are higher than UK, for instance. For sure. And I do see as, I think it's just the more the demand keeps growing in the US, the lower we'll keep seeing those prices continue to drop.
Victoria, we do have a couple questions. Shannon Allen is asking if I understand correctly, pigment ink is used on cotton and linen. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so pigment inks can print every type of fabric, but there's however, the pigment inks have the most affinity for natural fibers, cellulose, plant-based fibers. That is cotton, linen, rayon, bamboo, hemp. I think that's all of them. And so with those textiles, Mimaki's pigment inks can print that textile without the fabric being coated first, with a good result. But you can coat the fabric and get really, even better color development and fastness, right? But for the other textiles that aren't the natural plant-based fabrics, like silk, wool, nylon, polyester. So for all the other textiles, it's recommended to coat the fabric first, and you can print on it with good results. It's just that's the whole things to take into consideration with pigment inks and printing fiber types, I think.
We have another question from Edward Chow. You mentioned DTF, the direct-to-fabric, on cotton textiles. Do the Mimaki systems work on 100% cotton knits, like jersey, French terry, and a brushback fleece?
Yeah, so you can print cotton with reactive or pigment inks. And you would use a belt model. So I know there was the TX300P 1800B for the smaller medium production model. And then we have the large industrial production model also that has a belt with the reactive inks. So the belt driven system, it's like a sticky belt. So the fabric in the knit gets transported across and then it prints onto it.
And then we have Edwin Harvey is asking, what is the level of technical knowledge or skills that you need in order to operate the TX 1300, 1800 MK2?
You need very little previous knowledge to jump into this. It's very quick. That's why I kind of like to show that simple process of moving from the CAD to the here. And actually how I got involved with this industry and business was because I was in school and I used to work with the Mimakis. And I started to learn, you know, working with this as a student, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I want to do this. So it's very easy to adapt and learn with little skill set required.
He's also asking about the cost for the TX 1300, 1800 MK2 in Latin America. So I'm wondering if there's a place he can reach out to for that information.
Yeah, let me reach out, shoot me an email or put your email in the chat window, and I'll double check with our Latin American team.
And I think that's all the questions that have come in, unless anyone else would like to either use the chat or Q&A boxes.
Just to add to that, so in the US, you're looking at you're looking at around like 30 to 30,000 range. I don't know, and I apologize, I'm not sure. In the South America, we just need to confirm. But yeah, please feel free to send me an email.
It looks like that's all the questions.
Is there anything else from our guest speakers would like to add?
Nope, something just came in. Thank you. That's all he said.
So if there's no more questions, then thank you everybody for joining us today. We look forward to hopefully having you join us again sometime in the future. I'm going to bring the webinar to a closing now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.